Well, we now know from X-ray refractography that in fact it's a bear. It's a bear cub. And we know that because we've seen the underdrawing where the ears are actually curved on the top. It's just these little hairs that sort of stick up. And it's very clear that that snout is a bear snout. So while that may not change the world, right, and maybe we don't do a whole show because we now know that that's a bear. And then this fabulous eye. You know, there's a reason why Bingham went from being a local provincial artist to being a national artist, and why we still look at him. Because he has a great aesthetic sensibility. He looks at that composition and says, you know, okay, that's what the books tell me, but I know that the river is horizontal, and this fabulous flow of the river, and the sense of movement, and certainly in the 19th century, rivers were about movement. That's how people moved around. That's how things moved around. You didn't move around except by rivers, and so it was even more important in the 19th century than now. It's the light. If you notice, that sky gets almost all of the composition. It's the moist air. It's the way light filters through, you know, air that's picked up water off the river, and it has that sort of cloudy but yet crystalline sort of view. That's Bingham, who knows the river better than anyone else in the 19th century painting paintings, right? That's one reason why he was so compelling, really, in the 19th century, is you can't stop looking at that light. It's mesmerizing, and it's beautiful, and it's someone who's painting what he knows really, really well. So he's simplified the composition. He's cleaned it up. We know that now. And so part of the reason to do this now is that because of technology and changes in scholarship. And also, of course, one reason why the Met was so interested, this show actually goes to the Metropolitan Museum after it closes here, is because this is one of their iconic paintings in their 19th century American collection. And so we're also sharing the drawing with them. So there is a drawing of this painting, and now the X-rays that show his process in creating this painting that is so important to the Met. This is a work that is central to their collection. We have all kinds of new information about it, new ways of looking at it, and so that's why now. This painting is one that's from the St. Louis collection. The museum has the largest and most important collection of George Caleb Bingham paintings in the world, which is appropriate since he was the Missouri artist, and that's even what he was called in the 19th century. He was known as the Missouri artist. If he had only been, his reputation had only been in Missouri, he wouldn't be called that. It's because his reputation was national, and in fact, after many of the prints were made from his paintings, it was international. One of the print makers was a French printmaking house. So this is a work that's in the collection. I like it because of its reception in the 19th century and then now. So we know from reviews in the 19th century when this painting was shown that there were great debates and arguments about what card game was that. And there were people who insisted that they knew exactly what those card players were playing, what was in their hand, the particular card game, and it certainly caught the rapt attention of the two other raftsmen who were watching. If one of Bingham's great abilities is this evocation of the river and the landscape of the river and the effect of that, his other is this ability to draw an audience who normally would look down on raftsmen. They would be seen as sort of, you know, unruly ruffians, and we would be much better than that. What he's been able to do is to draw us into this game as equals. We're put on eye level of the players, we're drawn in. They're collegial kind of group. I wouldn't mind playing a card game with them, right? They aren't as scary as you would think. And so we, like these other two gentlemen who are looking on, we're drawn in. There's a kind of drama that is so done so sophisticatedly that we don't quite catch on because we think, oh, this is such a simple, everyday kind of scene, and yet we're drawn right into it. But certainly this rapt attention and this drawing us into the scene as one of their equals is a brilliant move on Bingham's part, number one, to keep interest into this. It certainly worked in his 19th century audience, but also to again make this statement about the legitimacy of the people he grew up around and the legitimacy of the Western environment. I would say it's George Caleb Bingham, the Missouri artist, at his very, very best.